Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're back in the shop, gonna get some more progress done on our truck here. And if you're new here, this truck is a 1966 International, but this part of it is a Dodge with the Cummins. And the cab sitting over there, the 66 International LOADSTAR. So we're gonna get some more work going on this thing. And just to summarize what we did last week, we finished welding up the whole back side of the bed and everything. I see a couple little spots I gotta hit again. And started cutting the taillight holes, and I still need to cut this side out. So that'll be the first thing we're working on. But as far as other work that we did was welding up the fuel tank hangers and the cab mounts and engine mounts. Also got some brackets made up in here, these gussets to hold the bumper from bending. And yeah, like I said, the AC compressor cut out so that it fits in there. Motor mounts are all welded in. And yeah, we're just gonna finish up a little bit of fab work we have for the taillights. I'm gonna give everything a once over, make sure it's good and all welded before I forget anything. I gotta grind down this top edge, and then we'll get this truck outside and start pressure washing it and get it clean, ready for paint. And for anybody that's new, this is the cab. Pretty much all original body work and everything. Nothing's really been modified on the outside, but the firewall's been cut, transmission tunnel rebuilt. Let's see if I can get around here and show the inside of it. So steering, dash, and seat is all original. And then the new doghouse down there, pedal box out of the Dodge, as well as the Hydro Boost out of the Dodge. Now I know the last video was kind of a lot of time lapse with just music playing. That's just because I was focusing on getting the work done and not really talking to the camera a whole lot. Because it took me probably 3 or 4 weeks of just working when I could of getting the video filmed. So this time I'm going to try to just film, no background music unless I need to for a time lapse. But other than that, it's just going to be real time filming, working, probably a long video because there won't be any speed ups or anything like that. So yeah, let's just get to work on this thing. I'm gonna get the plasma cutter out and ready, and then we'll cut those holes in the back of the bumper for the taillights. All right, I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but the neighbor's got some band practice going on, so you might be able to hear it. So for my template here, I just use a cutoff wheel that's the exact size I need, and then just clamp it on there and just cut around it with the plasma cutter. It's a little windy outside and I have the door open so I can see, so it might be a little bit of wind noise in the camera, but once we're done with this I'll close the door down and work in the front of the truck. Alright, got those all cut out. Let them cool off for a minute and then I'll clean out the insides, get all the slag out of there. Alright, the holes are cut slightly smaller than they need to be, so that way I can grind them smooth and then they'll be the right size. So I got the carbide bit on the die grinder. I'm just gonna start cutting the circles, make them a little bigger and clean them up. And then we'll measure them to make sure we stop at the right time. Well, got one of them cleaned up and the light fitting in there. Now I just got to go through and get the rest of them cleaned up, as well as those three, because only the one on the end is done. But I'm gonna get that knocked out. I'm not gonna film it just because it's the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm just gonna get these cleaned so I can fit the light, and then we'll move on and work on something else. All right, all the holes are cleaned up. All the lights fit in there pretty good. I'm gonna start getting this all cleaned out here and cap the ends so that way the bumper is all done, and then we can move on to whatever we have next. All right, let's go ahead and just draw up the rear plates real fast for the bumper. Just simple rectangles. 3.82 by 7.75. Round the corners off. 0.1. Let's do 0.2. 0.1. Okay. Finish that. 1.25. I'm not a huge fan of this software. Like, I'm used to it, so it's what I use, but it's a little more it's like too in-depth and advanced for what I really need. Because everything I'm cutting is just 2D. So I don't really need all the features it has, and it makes my computer run pretty slow. But it works. Okay, let's open it up in here. Alright, let's see if this will fit in the spot I have here. Yep. Alright, let's go ahead and get this cut. Let's make sure I have my 8-inch 40 amps. And cut. There's the plate. Just going to verify fitment before I cut the other one out. That'll work. Could probably cut the corners down a little more, but that's good enough. I left a little overlap there so we can have like almost like a fillet weld in there to weld in. Let's cut the other one out. All right, I put a piece of metal on the back side and I got it all clamped in there. I'm gonna weld that in real quick. Then we should be pretty wrapped up on welding. Never-ending welding on this thing. I thought I was done weeks ago, and here we are. Still welding. Alright, next thing I want to do is start mocking up the mud flaps, because I'm going to have to modify them to make them fit with the leaf springs back here. So first thing I got to do, get the overload leaves out of here, and then we'll be able to mount the mud flaps right there, see if it's going to work. Okay, I'm going to see if I can pull the overload leaves off without taking the whole axle out of the truck. See if I can just unbolt the U-bolts and take it apart. Well, I got the leaves out of there, and I'm a little worried these U-bolts are going to be too short, or too long now. Might have to get some different ones, but let's see what fits. Well, I wasn't able to find any spacers or anything, so I just added these blocks back on top with this plate. And I could just weld this on here on either side just to hold it in place, or put a pin in there. But I'm going to put that on for now. See if I can find some U-bolts that I can order, because there's nothing local. I already looked around. So I'm just going to use this for now, and then we'll figure out what to do in the future. But I just need to get this bolted back down and then do the other side. Okay, here's what I came up with for the mud flaps. I ended up cutting off the factory spring and everything that comes in the flap, and I had to cut it out right here for the leaf spring so it has room, and then I just drilled holes in here, bolted it, because I didn't want this to be like sticking up above the deck plate, so I made it flush, but that means I had to cut that out for the leaf spring. And then the flaps are on there, it's still loose, but we're dragging the ground and it's still up in the air. So I'm gonna have to trim these flaps down a few inches at least so they don't drag the ground so bad, because I don't want to go in reverse and run it over. But it's starting to come together back here. It looks good. Now I just got to get the other side done. I'll film that side when I do it. I just wanted to get this side done and figured out. And yeah, the top two here have rib nuts because it's into the tube, and then the bottom one has a through bolt with a washer. And then I still got to do this side here, but I couldn't drill the hole with the leaf spring in the way. So I'm gonna have to drill that when the leaves are out of the way. And I'm still debating on moving this one notch down to raise the truck up in the rear a little bit, which would give more room for the leaf spring to the mud flap, but I think where it's at now, it'll be okay. But yeah, it looks good. Now let's get the other side taken apart and cut it up. Oh yeah. When you push. trigger. Glass in here?
Better than nothing. What else you got? WD-40?
Cutting oil?
Oh yeah.
Hot tamales.
You got them in there? Yeah. Or the rip nut master.
Just two of them. The other one's gonna get bolts with the washer. Just because they're a little stronger than the rib nuts. But I'm ripping in the top ones because it's the tube. I don't want to have a bolt all the way through. Not bad. Okay, now that we got the mud flaps all sorted out, I need to grind down this top edge to get those beads smoothed out on both sides. And then after that, I'm gonna get this thing outside, start washing it, and then figure out what to do from there, whether we're gonna start painting it right away or get to work on the cab, get that going, and then we can paint the both at the same time, because I'm gonna paint the bottom side of that one and then the whole frame. But yeah, let's just get this thing ground down and go from there. frame's all cleaned up, pressure washed, got all the grease and junk off of it, and then I ended up spraying some like rust inhibitor stuff on there to stop it from flash rusting. But I got it out here drying. I blew it off with the air, and just a couple spots still dripping water like out of the frame rails. So I'm gonna leave it outside probably overnight and tomorrow. Just let it sit out, let it dry. I still need to address the rust in the bumper. I might just wire wheel it or use some like rust remover stuff. We'll see. But yeah, this thing cleaned up really good. All the grease and grime is off the frame. But unfortunately, I don't have the paint that I need to get this thing painted today or tomorrow, because it's Memorial Day weekend and all the stores are closed. So I'm gonna start working on the cab, get the bottom side welded up, and then see what else we can knock out until I can get some paint for that thing, get that painted, get the bottom of the cab painted, and then go from there. But I think that'll be the next video. But for now, I'm just gonna get working on the welding. So I gotta weld a lot of stuff on the cab, like the doghouse, everything up in here, get that all stitched together and seam sealed, and then figure out what else I gotta clean up on there and get finished. So let's get this thing moved over, put it on the rack, and we'll start welding on it. Alright guys, we got some good progress done. Got the inside fully welded and seam sealed. Looks like Swiss cheese over here for all these holes, but they're all doing something. They're all bolts for that plate I put in there for the column and the pedal. But yeah, this is all done in here. And same for this side, all fully welded and seam sealed. And then I took the wiper motor off so I can have it out of the way while I pressure wash everything and clean it up so I can paint it. And then we'll go ahead and throw that back on. And the interior of the truck is actually getting this DEI boom mat spray. I'm gonna spray the entire interior with this, and then I have the stick-on boom mat as well. That'll go on there, and that'll be sound deadening and heat and all that. It's for the interior, and then just a bed liner on the bottom. So it should be pretty good for the heat. I do have some of the DEI like Forma heat shield stuff. It's just like 1/4 inch thick heat shield, and you can form it around your exhaust or whatever. I'm gonna try to build something around the turbo just to keep the heat off the passenger feet. I think the driver's side will be fine, just how it is. But I think that's pretty much gonna wrap up this video. Next video we'll show the pressure washing of everything, and then the Rhino liner, I guess Raptor liner on the cab, and then the spray and everything on the inside. and probably bolting the shifter to the floor, and see what else we can get done. I'm just trying to knock out what I can when I can, and try to remember to make videos when I do it, because I tend to forget to have the camera rolling. But thank you guys for checking it out. Hope you guys get enough content for this week. Not sure how long this video is going to be, but I'm gonna go get it edited and get it done. Well, thank you guys for watching. Truck's coming along pretty good. We're getting good progress on it. I think I have 6-7 weeks to get it done to make it to the show I want to go to. So yeah, thank you guys for checking it out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.